Under the glowing Manhattan skyline, a global milestone quietly unfolded, and the world noticed. In a moment that instantly raced across social media and fan communities, Jin etched his name into pop culture history by becoming the first and only Korean soloist to light up New York City's legendary Empire State Building, transforming one of the most recognizable landmarks on Earth into a symbol of his worldwide influence. The Empire State Building lighting ceremonies are traditionally reserved for world leaders, historic anniversaries, humanitarian campaigns, and a select group of entertainment icons whose cultural footprint reaches far beyond their home countries. For Jin to receive that honor alone, not as part of a group but as a solo artist, marks a striking new chapter in the global rise of Korean music. The skyscraper's radiant glow, captured against the dark Hudson night, quickly became a visual shorthand for just how far his career has traveled since stepping into the spotlight. Fans gathered in person outside the building, cameras raised as the colors illuminated the Art Deco tower, while millions more watched clips circulate online within minutes. The spectacle wasn't merely about aesthetics, it was about recognition. In an industry where symbolic gestures often speak louder than trophies, the lighting of the Empire State Building placed Jin in a lineage of internationally celebrated figures, reinforcing his status as a cultural ambassador whose music resonates across continents. The timing only amplified the moment's significance, with his solo work continuing to attract massive global attention and his post-military service activities closely followed by international media. The ceremony felt like a coronation of sorts, a public acknowledgement that his reach now stretches deep into the heart of the Western entertainment capital. For longtime supporters, it served as emotional validation of years spent championing his artistry. For casual observers, it was a headline-grabbing introduction to just how powerful his solo brand has become. What made the scene especially compelling was its quiet symbolism. A Korean artist standing at the center of Manhattan's most iconic skyline, his name tied to a building that has long represented ambition, reinvention, and global dreams, reflected the broader story of K-pop's expansion into mainstream Western culture. Jin's moment was not simply personal triumph, it was part of a much larger narrative about how language, geography, and tradition no longer define the limits of global stardom. As images of the illuminated skyscraper continued to circulate through international news outlets and fan networks alike, the message was unmistakable. Jin had arrived at a new tier of recognition. The Empire State Building, once again, had become a stage for history, and this time, its lights told a story written in Korean pop music's brightest chapter yet. The reactions that followed only deepened the sense that this was more than a fleeting viral moment. Entertainment reporters in multiple countries highlighted the rarity of the honor, while fans trended Jin's name across platforms, sharing personal stories of how his music had accompanied them through different chapters of their lives. Screenshots of the glowing skyscraper were paired with messages of pride, disbelief, and celebration, turning the New York night into a digital gathering place for a global fandom. Industry observers were quick to frame the event as a reflection of shifting power dynamics in the international music scene. For decades, Western landmarks like the Empire State Building symbolized the pinnacle of mainstream recognition. Now, artists from Asia were not merely participating in that world, but reshaping it. Jin's solo achievement stood out precisely because it represented a new kind of visibility, one earned through streaming numbers, sold-out appearances, and an intensely loyal worldwide audience that continues to expand. Behind the spectacle lay months of momentum. Since launching his solo activities in earnest, Jin has consistently demonstrated a blend of vocal warmth and emotional storytelling that separates him from his peers. Each release has drawn attention not only for commercial performance, but for its sincerity, earning praise from critics who note how his music balances polished pop production with intimate themes of growth, longing, and resilience. The Empire State Building tribute, in that sense, felt like a visual summary of a year defined by steady, undeniable ascent. The moment also sparked wider conversations about representation and recognition in global pop culture. For younger Korean artists watching from afar, the image of a compatriot's name linked to one of America's most famous structures carried symbolic weight, suggesting that international stages are no longer distant dreams, but tangible possibilities. Jin's achievement resonated as proof that creative voices from Seoul can command the same monumental platforms as those from Los Angeles, London, or New York. Long after the lights dimmed, the significance lingered. Fans continued to dissect every photograph, every angle of the illuminated spire, and every official caption released by the building itself, treating them like historic artifacts from a turning point in his career. What began as a ceremonial illumination quickly evolved into a cultural marker, one that will likely be referenced whenever discussions arise about K-pop's soloists crossing new thresholds in the global arena. In the grand narrative of pop history, certain images come to define eras: a sold-out stadium, a chart-topping debut, a landmark glowing against the night sky. Jin's name shining over Manhattan now joins that visual lexicon, signaling not only a personal victory, but the continuing evolution of a global industry that is becoming more diverse, more interconnected, and more open to artists who speak to the world in many different languages, yet are understood everywhere. What made the achievement feel even more resonant was how naturally it fit into Jin's broader artistic identity. Known for blending sincerity with quiet confidence, he has often spoken about creating music that feels personal rather than performative, emotional rather than calculated. Seeing his name associated with a monument built on ambition and endurance mirrored that philosophy, a reminder that steady dedication rather than spectacle alone can lead to extraordinary recognition. The Empire State Building's towering presence became an accidental metaphor for a career shaped over years of persistence, discipline, and connection with listeners across the globe. Commentators also pointed out how rare it is for solo acts, even from the world's biggest markets, to receive such symbolic tributes in New York City. That rarity only sharpened the historical edge of the moment. While K-pop groups have long been central to the genre's international expansion, Jin's solo honor suggested a new phase in which individual artists from Korea are being acknowledged on equal footing with the most established global stars. It underscored the idea that the industry's center of gravity is no longer confined to one language or continent. The spectacle further fueled speculation about what might come next. With anticipation already high around his future projects, many fans interpreted the illumination as a signal of even larger stages ahead: major international campaigns, headline performances, and creative ventures that could push his artistry into new territory. Whether deliberate or not, the timing transformed the ceremony into a preview of a chapter that feels poised to unfold on an even grander scale. Culturally, the image of Jin's name tied to one of America's most enduring landmarks will likely live on far beyond the promotional cycle that sparked it. It will circulate in retrospectives, anniversary posts, and documentaries charting the globalization of Korean pop music, serving as a visual shorthand for the moment when solo artistry from Seoul fully claimed space in the heart of Manhattan. For future generations of fans, it may become one of those reference points that define an era, a night when a skyline told a story about how music travels, how audiences evolve, and how barriers quietly dissolve. In the end, the glow over New York did more than celebrate a single artist. It reflected a world where cultural exchange moves faster than ever, where fandoms span time zones, and where a voice that once began on a Korean stage can illuminate a city thousands of miles away. Jin's Empire State Building moment stands not just as a headline, but as a symbol of shifting tides in pop culture, of expanding horizons for Asian artists, and of a future in which the world's most iconic lights continue to shine on unexpected, history-making stars. As conversations about the event continued to ripple through media circles, analysts began framing the night as part of a larger pattern rather than a singular anomaly. Over the past decade, Korean artists have steadily carved out space on global charts, award stages, and festival lineups, but moments as visually symbolic as a landmark illumination remain rare. That rarity is what transformed Jin's achievement into a reference point, a snapshot that future discussions about international recognition will almost certainly return to when tracing how far the genre's influence has traveled. The emotional weight of the moment was especially evident in fan testimonials that surfaced online in the days that followed. Many described staying up through the night to watch live streams or waiting outside the building despite the cold, simply to witness a few minutes of glowing light. Others spoke about discovering Jin's music during difficult periods of their lives and feeling a deep sense of pride seeing his name projected onto such a storied structure. Those personal narratives added a human layer to what might otherwise have been viewed as a sleek promotional spectacle, turning it into a collective memory shared across borders. There was also a business dimension quietly underscoring the celebration. Symbolic recognitions like this often arrive only after sustained commercial success, strong public visibility, and strategic partnerships within the global entertainment ecosystem. For Jin, it reinforced the idea that his solo brand has matured into a force capable of commanding attention in one of the world's most competitive cultural markets. The Empire State Building, long used as a canvas for international causes and icons, effectively became a billboard for that reality, one that required no spoken words to make its point. At the same time, industry insiders emphasized that such milestones rarely mark an endpoint. Instead, they often serve as launching pads, setting expectations higher and widening the scope of what an artist is perceived capable of achieving. With Jin already positioned at the center of conversations about the next phase of K-pop's global evolution, the illuminated skyline felt less like a conclusion and more like the opening scene of a new act, one in which his individual artistry may play an even more prominent role on the world stage. When future timelines of his career are drawn, the night Manhattan glowed in his honor will likely be highlighted alongside major chart debuts, landmark performances, and turning point releases. It will stand as a visual punctuation mark, the instant when ambition, preparation, and cultural momentum aligned under a single tower of light. And for a global audience watching from countless screens, it offered a powerful reminder that in modern pop culture, geography no longer defines destiny. Sometimes, all it takes is one unforgettable skyline to announce that an artist's story has entered a new historic chapter.